You're listening to the Mid-Career GPS podcast, episode 103.
All of a sudden, one day out of the blue, I wake up out of bed, with a quick start, and it was downloaded in my brain, online reading tutoring.
A few weeks ago, I shared that I wanted to bring you an episode about ideas for your summer professional development, and that episode would have a specific focus on teachers. Now, I postponed releasing that episode due to the tragic and horrific mass shooting at Robb Elementary School in Uvalde, Texas. Over the last few weeks, I have talked to my teacher friends and colleagues, as well as professional connections and teachers within my network, about their plans for what's next for them and their careers. Some are deciding to double down and stay in education, while others are giving serious consideration to leaving the profession. In this episode, you are going to meet Joanne Kaminski, the founder of the Online Reading Tutor. She helps teachers build an online tutoring business. So whether they're looking to supplement their teaching income or do this full time, they will have the business and the life they want. In this episode, you'll learn how Joanne pivoted her career from being an elementary school teacher and reading specialist to being an online business owner and entrepreneur. You'll also learn why it took Joanne to fail 5 times at launching an online business before she decided on tutoring. You'll also hear what Joanne has learned about running an online business so you can decide if that's something for you. And lastly, she will share her advice to help you find true happiness in your career. This is the Mid-Career GPS podcast, and I'm your host, John Nerrell. I help mid-career professionals who are feeling undervalued and underutilized show up to find the job they love or love the job they have using my proven 4-step formula. It's time to start building your mid-career GPS. So let's get started. Hello, my friends. Since one of the things you will learn today is about making a career pivot, I want to share a great resource with you. My Career Jumpstart Guide will help you make some quick edits or revisions to your resume and LinkedIn profile, as well as help you get ready for your next interview. If you're looking for a quick and easy reference and resource to help you start navigating your career transition, I want you to visit my website. Go to johnnerrell.com/free to get your Career Jumpstart Guide today. And I'll also have that linked up for you in the show notes. But now, let me introduce you to today's guest. Joanne Kaminski reached out to me on LinkedIn, and we quickly started a conversation that was rooted in our love for education and being business owners. After talking with Joanne, I knew she was someone I wanted you to meet.
Yeah, absolutely. My name's Joanne Kaminski. I live in the wonderful state of Wisconsin, and I have been teaching kids who are struggling with reading since 2000, but I've been doing it online since 2010 and helping other tutors and teachers that are great at teaching, but really struggle with how to get students for their business. I help them as well be able to pack their schedule completely full with the students they love working with.
It's no surprise that many teachers get into the profession because that's what they wanted to be growing up. For Joanne, there was an interesting piece to go along with this.
You know, it's funny you asked that because it kind of changed as time went on. When I was a little girl, I loved playing teacher, right? And playing school. And then when I got into middle school and I started hearing about the different careers that other people wanted, I decided I wanted to be a lawyer. And my parents said I'd be really good at that because I was really good at arguing. And so I stuck that inside of my head. Okay, you're really good at arguing, so you'd be a really good lawyer. And that's what I began actually going to school for when I started college.
Where'd you go to school?
I went to Marquette University.
Nice. And you got your degree in?
I actually got my degree in elementary education.
Okay. So what happened while you were in school that made you pivot from law to elementary ed?
I joined mock trial. And I joined that in my freshman year and I loved acting. So it was like the two pieces of my life. It felt like being put together, the acting and, trials and getting the feel for what would it be like to be a lawyer. And then when I realized that I have to stand up for my client, even if I know that they are guilty, that was the piece that was the sticking point for me. I couldn't get over it. It gave me nightmares. I really struggled with that thought and I couldn't move forward with that as my career. And I really had to rethink, what do I want to do? So then I listened to the other advice that my family gave me, and that was, you're really great with kids. And I was like, oh, I could be a teacher. Yes, that would be a fantastic move for me. So then I pivoted right in my second year of college and began going for elementary education.
Now, as mid-career professionals, you may have moved on from a job or career path because you didn't like it or believed you couldn't do the job. Throughout our careers, what we are looking for is that fit where everything comes together and aligns for us, where we truly get to do our best work. And Joanne found her fit in elementary education.
Well, my middle school years were the most horrific years of my life. So I knew I didn't want to relive them every single day. And I just have a personality that really fits with little kids. And I'm that person that I see a baby or I see a little one and I'm going to spark up a conversation with them. And not in a weird way, I just really love the younger kids. And so I knew automatically if I'm going to go into this, I really only want to go up to sixth grade. I had that opportunity to do 1 through 6 or 1 through 8. And I said, no way am I doing 1 through 8. And I only did the 1 through 6.
We all know there is a honeymoon phase when you start a new job. But when that honeymoon phase ends, you start seeing the job and the work for what it truly is. And this is where some of our biggest lessons come from.
Well, my first year, it was culture shock for sure. I was teaching in the inner city and really was not prepared at all for classroom management or even just the different culture of working with all students who were mostly African American. I was blind when it came to color early on in my life. When I saw people, I saw people. I didn't see their color, right? Which you're missing a lot when you don't actually see color. It's like you're not even seeing the differences of who they are. And so for me, there was a lot of culture shock. Things that were normal for them were not normal for me. Like you don't take things off the teacher's desk, right? Like that's a no-no. In this kid's world, it was like, if I want it, I take it. It's mine. If it's in my hands, it's now in my possession. Therefore, I own it. And it was a different world. I mean, I had my classroom broken into. My wallet was stolen. I had kids that would fight every single day. I thought I had the classroom of like all the kids had some kind of special ed need, because I was like, there's no way that like this is like typical and normal for kids. Like this is just insane. I had one kid who would bang his head against this metal cabinet every single day to get attention until it bled. Here I am, I'm trying to teach and I've got, kids over here like spitballing. I got this other kid with his head going against like the cabinet. I'm like, what is this? Am I in a psych ward? Like this is absolutely insane. And it was so frustrating because all I wanted to do was like give my heart and soul to teaching. And that first year, because nobody really trained me in classroom management, I struggled that entire year. And the second year, I decided to take this course. It was called anger management. And so many of my kids had anger issues that I was like, I need that course. Like I need to know how to handle their anger. What I didn't realize is that I had a lot of anger and that I had to actually learn how to handle my own anger so that I could be a better teacher and I could develop deep relationships with each of my students. Once I took that course and I went into my second year of teaching, my entire world was changed. I really fell in love with these kids for who they were. I began really getting to know who they are inside and out, and just taking the time that I needed to get to know them, build a relationship with them so that I could teach them. I always thought growing up that if you want to be able to like the teacher, like you just automatically commands respect, right? But for these kids, I had to earn their respect. And once I earned their respect, I was able to then teach them.
Joanne learned a powerful lesson early in her career about respect. And that lesson, along with being tagged as a high performer, accelerated her career to some new and exciting positions.
I actually moved up very quickly in the school system. So I started off like after that first year and I got over that like big initial shock and and experience. I really fell in love with teaching reading. And so from there, my principal had asked me if I'd be interested in teaching other teachers how to teach the SFA reading program. And I said, yeah, I would love to. And I actually had to go and interview for the position. And I was hired and I was able to not only work with my own students in my classroom, but also travel around the country and train other teachers in how to teach our reading curriculum. And then from there, I ended up the following year after that, they liked what I was doing so much that they had me then also train the trainers. So, I had really worked myself up to the point where so I'm only in my third year, right? And then life happens and I end up getting pregnant. And here, babies coming on in, I'm traveling around the world and also teaching in a classroom. And I'm like, I won't be able to handle this lifestyle. This is way too much. I mean, just having my own classroom in and of itself is a ton of work, but then to also be traveling on the weekends to train these teachers, that's not going to be doable with a baby in the mix. And so I had decided that I was actually going to leave the school at the end of the year, and the reading curriculum coordinator position came on up. And so then I started kind of thinking, well, could I choose my hours if I work this? And they're like, sure, you could choose your hours. I'm like, okay. So this would actually be this is doable. I could help people with the reading program, and I could do some training once in a while, and I could work less hours and be more present for my baby.
We've heard before on this podcast that sometimes life happens. And when it does, there are some big lessons to be learned. As you listen to this next clip, I want you to pay particular attention to how Joanne's career transitioned. Being on the younger side of the mid-career spectrum, Joanne quickly learned that happiness and fit were vital to her health and wellness. And with that came a considerable risk.
And so I kept that reading curriculum coordinator position for 5 years, went back to school, got my master's as a reading specialist. And then we had some administration changes. And you know how it is with administration changes, like I don't know, I developed such a close relationship with the principal that I was working with. And this new principal didn't care about building relationships and didn't want to get to know people individually, and just kind of had like a backseat view to the entire school. And it just wasn't feeling right. And on top of that, all the teachers that I was helping, they were brand new teachers, because 50% of our teachers would leave the school system, leave our school and even teaching after that first year. So they would come, 50% of them were new, and then they would leave the following year. So I was like constantly having to start from the beginning of helping them understand, like, how do we improve our instruction for teaching these kids reading? I was constantly starting over, 50% new staff every single school year. And they struggled with classroom management just like I did when I was in my first year teaching. So I felt like there were so many odds against me that I couldn't make the effective, growth with these kids that I really saw as a potential for them. And so I decided to leave the school system, and I went to a brand new job as a reading specialist, closer to my home. And I thought things would just be a lot better there. And 90% of the kids now were reading on grade level versus 30% of the kids reading on grade level. But the administration situation was 20 times worse than what I had just come from. And I ended up getting sick, and I was in and out of the hospital. I ended up taking a 3-month leave of absence. And when I got back, I sat down in my office chair, and I just heard this voice, and it said, "You are not meant to be here." And this was a huge blow to my identity, because everything I had done to this point was to learn absolutely everything about teaching reading so that I could help kids that were struggling with reading. And I was being told that I was not meant to be here. And I took that to mean like I'm not meant to be in the school system. I'm not meant to be teaching reading. And I left and I started trying to figure out what I wanted to do with my life. And my husband told me that I had to put in a leave of absence for a year. And he's like, you must put in writing that you can get your job back if you're not successful in a year. So he pretty much gave me like a 1 year, you can try to make this on your own, whatever it is you choose to do. But in 1 year, you need to go back to that school system. And like my heart was in this place where I was just like, there's no way I'm stepping back into the doors of a school ever again. And I was just at a point where I was just like, okay, I will appease him. I will get this paperwork signed and make that happen. But I know that I'm never going to walk into a school system again. And it was just like this real adamant feeling. And so I tried 5 businesses before I started doing the reading tutoring online, and I failed at every single one of them. However, I did learn a ton about how to run a business, how to run an online business. I learned all the things that I needed in order to be successful as I ran into my journey of becoming an online reading tutor. And that was gold that couldn't be replaced by anything else. And so it helped me really be, in a position where I could have success doing what I really love. But first, I had to experience a whole bunch of things that I didn't love first.
School systems are businesses. And just like any other organization, they aren't protected from bad leaders and bad administrators. Listening to Joanne's mid-career moment, she realized that something had to change. Starting an online business was something she wanted to do. And she tried a lot of them.
So I got like trapped into this MLM business. It was called Polaris. And I was pretty much selling expensive vacations, motivational conferences to people. It's hard to even put into words, but I had to cold call people and go through this whole process. And it just felt wrong. But a really good friend of mine was doing it and said, you'd be really great at this. And I trusted him. I trusted him with my life. And I even had to take out like a big loan in order to be a part of it. And so I invested about $20,000 to be a part of this endeavor, and it did not pay back. I was only able to get one person at the lowest price point of $1,000.
Wow.
So this was like, but again, I learned how to do business online the wrong way and the right way. So I learned like how I don't want to run a business. And so then I ended up, continuing to think, and I'm like, I love Usborne books. They're such beautiful books. And they're it's kind of like selling Tupperware, but for reading tutors, right? Reading teachers. So there are these really great books, and I would go to these houses and I would have these parties and sell these books. And, I kind of found out pretty quickly that when you run out of friends, you run out of clients. And so that was a problem, right? Because there were so many other Usborne retail, sellers and all of that kind of stuff. So then I'm like, well, maybe I could go inside and I could go into my creative journey. I love crocheting. So I could like sell crocheted blankets and jewelry and all this kind of stuff. And I soon found out without a list, you're not going to just sell your stuff. You can't just put it online and expect people to just buy it. Like you have to make a name for yourself online. You have to be promoting your products. Like there's a lot of sales that has to go into it on your side of it that I still hadn't quite mastered at this point in time. And then I decided I'm going to get even more creative. I'm going to take like my dream job and morph it into something. So I'm like, wouldn't it be cool? Now imagine I'm a mom with little kids at this point in time. I mean, they were like ages, I think they were 5, 4, and 2 at this point in time. And so the only thing that I wanted more than anything else in the world was some private time with my husband, just like to have us time, right? So I'm like, oh, I could create these amazing experiences, these vacations for families where the kids can learn about where they're traveling.
Okay, let's pause here. There are a lot of opportunities out there, and it's not surprising that the online marketplace is flooded with them. You can hear that Joanne has had some trouble finding her fit in the online marketplace, but she's working hard to see what that fit's going to be.
they can like read books and they can continue to read over the summer, and the parents can have some alone time, and then we can have these amazing experiences that we build in. Like if we go to Alaska, we could do like the Iditarod, and we could do all these things. We could be reading books about the Iditarod. And it was like this creative explosion that went through my mind. And what I learned from this creative explosion was, if people aren't looking for it, they are not going to find it. I mean, nobody is looking for these like learning vacations. So if people aren't looking for it, like you are the one who's going to have to drive that need and that desire. And then all of a sudden, one day out of the blue, I like wake up out of bed, like with a quick start, and it was downloaded in my brain, online reading tutoring.
Joanne gets an idea for being an online reading tutor. Watch her brain unfold here with the thoughts that led her to this decision.
And I was like, amazingly, I was like, I know how to make it happen. Like I knew how to use Skype at the time. And I'm like, okay, so I can take Skype. Can people see if I share the screen on Skype, would people be able to see the words? Could kids see the words? Would this be something that I could teach kids from all over the world? And I could help those kids that are struggling with reading, because I already knew there was a huge need with kids that were struggling with reading. I already knew that there were parents who would pay for help in that area. So there was need, there was desire, there was all these things. And now it was, can I make it happen? And so I started my adventure in moving forward with online reading tutoring and haven't looked back since.
When did you know that starting an online tutoring reading or an online tutoring business was the thing that was just going to click and make it work?
Gosh, probably not until like 6 months in the endeavor. So I spent a good 3 months just recreating materials I could use online, not realizing that there's already materials online for me to use. But then I started putting up like good old bandit signs, like those like when you have a house for sale, you like put the sign on up. I was putting signs up about that for reading tutoring, and I had people contacting me. So I knew that people were looking for reading tutoring. Now, could I get them to go online? That was the big piece right there. And when I shared my idea with these parents and I said, you're not going to have to drive anywhere, right? Like you just get to do the tutoring, and you can be working on doing your laundry or cooking dinner while your child is doing their tutoring. It's one less place for you to have to drive. I tried to think about it from like their point of view. How is this going to benefit them and their family? Right. And there are some families I learned that they will actually drive an hour to one direction just to get reading tutoring. So for them to not have to drive anywhere was a huge blessing. And so when I could start tapping into these people that they didn't want to drive, they were brave enough to try online, that we could start, closing the gap very quickly for them. So once I started getting results and I was able to start sharing those results with people that I was able to get, it was really easy to start convincing them. I did have lots of people like, I don't know, online. I don't know how that, for a really long time, I had to explain to people like, what will it look like? And, after a few years, I said, let's just try the assessment online. If it doesn't go well, I will totally respect that. You guys can come to my house, whatever, we'll do the tutoring here, right? But I just want to let you know that I do the tutoring online because I'm actually able to get quicker results.
When you think about the value you can bring to any job, whether it's for an organization or your own business, you must think about the value you can provide. Joanne shares something key here for all of us. She shared that she could get quicker results through online tutoring rather than the traditional or in-person way. So consider this. As she's building her business, how does she keep finding new people and welcoming them into her audience?
Yeah, well, it started with, I had a video on my website that met them where they were at, right? So I would say on that video, if you're listening to this right now, it's probably because you are so frustrated right now with where your child is at in reading. You watch them sit at that kitchen table as you try to help them even just read the directions on their homework. And and they're struggling through it, and your heart just goes out to them. You wish you could just, give them that secret pill and it would all be better, and it would kind of like all go away and everything would be perfect for them. And you're looking for that one solution that's finally going to work. Well, guess what? I can help. I have been helping kids since, right? And I shared a little bit of my journey real quick. And then I said, even if you're ready to get started, great, click here. If you're not ready to get started, but you would like to download 20 videos on how to be able to help your child at home, you can do so by filling out this form. So there was a form for them to fill on out, and they could download 20 videos that went over some beginning things like how to choose the right books and how to know what kind of learner your child is, and all these short videos that guided them into knowing their child better and be able to provide the right resources and tools for them. And I had many people who went through that process that ended up moving forward with me. And so it was getting them onto that list, growing my list. And then on top of that, I decided I'm going to write a book too. Why not? Right? Like another way that people can find me. I'll write a book and that will help grow the list. And so I wrote a book called How to Become a Better Reader in 30 Days. And it was a reading challenge with a parent and a child that they would go through. And I guide the parent through how to figure out what are the specific areas their child is struggling with. And throughout those 30 days, the mom or the dad is reading with the child. And one's reading one page, the other's reading another page, and they're able to have the right books in their hands at the right time and get success just from going through the simple process inside of that book. And so that also led to people downloading, getting on the email list, and it was all this cycle that pointed them all to that one place.
Joanne shared the one thing I tell you all the time. Your answer is grounded in how you can help. Whether you're applying for an internal position or leveraging your talents and expertise elsewhere, the key is all in how you can help someone solve a problem they have. I asked Joanne the various ways she helps teachers create another revenue stream.
So I would say YouTube has been just my number one place to be able to grow my business. Most people that find me have found one of my YouTube videos. And so from there, they download my 50 plus ways to get online tutoring students, and they get onto that email list, right? So they get into the swing. Once they download that, there's an opportunity to buy the online tutor business in a box. And so they get an opportunity, to kind of try out free, move forward with something that's a little bit, lower priced, and then continue to be introduced to the services and the people that we serve and be able to help. So we have teachers from all walks of life. We've got teachers that they never started teaching yet, like they got their degree, but they haven't, gone into the classroom. We've got new parents that are leaving the classroom and they're trying to figure out their way, kind of like I was. And then we've got, that teacher that's about to retire. That's like, I don't really want to stop teaching, but I know that I need to retire soon. So what am I going to do? And so then they add, tutoring into the mix as well. So it's a really amazing group of people that we get to interact with.
I want to remind you that this interview was recorded before the tragic shooting in Uvalde, Texas. I shared some personal thoughts that I was having around that whole event in episode 101. But I asked Joanne at this time how she had seen teaching change because of the pandemic.
I would say, teaching in the classroom and teaching one-on-one are just completely different experiences. What virtual classrooms look like during the pandemic is not what online tutoring looks like at all, right? With the virtual classrooms, if you've got 25, 30 kids on Zoom with you, that's a total nightmare. That is not right. But there were some teachers that they started realizing, wait, I could be doing this online and I really enjoy it. There were a lot of teachers that started realizing that this is maybe the route that they wanted to go into and be able to do. We even had people who were in-person tutors that they started doing online because they were forced to during the pandemic or not have their business. And so they went online and they realized, wait a minute, teaching online is just a better business model in and of itself, because you can work with more students. You don't have to drive from place to place, and everything is online. So, I mean, all you need is your computer, and you don't have to carry around that big hefty bag with you all over the place anymore. You have everything at your fingertips, which is awesome. So that first thing that I would say to those teachers that are going back on into the classroom and they're like, should I leave? Should I not leave? Just know that online tutoring is a completely different experience and you can get paid more for it. You work with your kids one-on-one. Like, who doesn't love that to begin with if you're a teacher, and you can just like totally meet the needs of every single one of your students that comes to you. But then on top of it, you have clients that are going to pay you more money to do that than what you get paid in the school system. So many tutors will actually begin working part-time, 20, 25 hours, making more money than they were making full-time as a classroom teacher. And so there are definitely benefits to really thinking through, what kind of lifestyle is it that you want? Do you want your weekends to be spent having to correct homework, or do you want to take the weekends off so that you can spend time with your own family?
As we wrap up, I asked Joanne what advice she has for you to help you build your mid-career GPS.
Definitely network with other people who are where you want to be. That's going to be absolutely huge. Also, we should constantly be developing our skills. So think about, where are your skills now? And how can you take your skills, the ones that you absolutely love, to the next level? So reading an hour a day, right? That's going to help you with being able to learn a ton of information. Reading an hour a day is going to allow you to at least read one book a year. And if you read, one book a week, one book a month. I've got this. It's going to allow you to read one book at least in a month, right? And you're going to leave with so much like valuable information on how to take your skills to the next level. A lot of us think like we leave college and we're like, all right, I'm done with like learning, right? But here's the thing. Once you leave college, you now are 100% in the driver's seat of your education. You get to choose absolutely everything that you want to learn. Nobody is telling you what you need to learn anymore. You get to make every single one of those decisions. So don't like just sit in the passenger seat and allow life to pass you by. Sit in the driver's seat. Continue to read and educate yourself. Join the classes that you need to join to take your skills to the next level, and be at the top 1% of the world who is making the most amount of money, because those are the habits that they have instilled inside of themselves.
Please listen to how you can connect with Joanne and learn what's next for her, and then come back as I share a few closing thoughts.
Yeah, awesome. If people are looking for reading tutoring services for their child, you can go to theonlinereadingtutor.com. If you are thinking about starting your own online tutoring businesses and you're like, how would I get students? You could download my 50 plus ways to get online tutoring students. Go to onlinetutorcoach.com/50. I've created a book called How to Start an Online Tutoring Business Making 4 to 5 Figures a Month. You can access that by going to onlinetutorcoach.com/book. We have a free group for tutors on Facebook called the Ultimate Support Group for Online Tutors. And you can find me on YouTube. Just type in Joanne Kaminski and you will find my channel.
Joanne Kaminski is a problem solver. She found a solution to help her students read better and found a way to save their parents or guardians time. As mid-career professionals, you may be looking for some ways to bring in more money. Maybe you have an online business and are looking for ways to expand or grow that business. You may not be seeking to convert it to a full-time business, but without questions, there are things in Joanne's story you can take with you and learn. When I started my coaching practice, I started part-time while working a full-time job. And as things progressed, it just made more sense for me to leave that job and pursue something I was truly passionate and dedicated to full-time. And I've never looked back. While I admit that I have worked harder now than I have ever in my career, that hard work is paying off in some exciting ways. So whatever you are doing, I want you to answer this one question. What is the value you are bringing to that position? Your answer will make your career path and future decisions much clearer. I want to thank Joanne Kaminski for joining me on the Mid-Career GPS podcast. Until next time, my friends, remember this. We build our mid-career GPSs 1 mile or 1 step at a time, and how we show up matters. Make it a great rest of your day. If you enjoyed today's show and don't want to miss an episode, follow on Apple Podcasts or wherever you usually listen. And I'd appreciate it if you would leave a rating and review. Visit johnnarroll.com to download your free copy of the 55-minute career transition jumpstart to help you start building your mid-career GPS. And don't forget to connect with me on LinkedIn and follow me on social at John Narroll Coaching. Thanks for listening. I'll see you next time.